The night Damian Cross rejected his fated mate, the moon over Crimson Moon Pack turned the color of old blood. Elena Hartley stood before the entire pack, her hands trembling, as the man the wolf spirit had chosen for her looked past her shoulder and spoke words that would break her in half. "I reject the bond," Damian said. His voice was calm, almost bored, as if he were declining a business offer rather than tearing apart the one thing that could never be undone. "Elena Hartley is not fit to stand beside the throne of Crimson Moon." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Rejection was rare among wolves. It was said to leave a wound in the soul that never fully closed, a hollow ache that both wolves would carry for the rest of their lives. But Damian did not care about wounds. He cared about power, about alliances, about a pack that needed to look strong to its enemies. Elena was the daughter of a low-ranking family, a girl who worked in the pack's herb gardens and had no political value to offer him. Serena Voss, on the other hand, was the daughter of a neighboring alpha, and marrying her would double the strength of Crimson Moon's borders. Elena did not cry in front of them. She had too much pride for that. She simply nodded once, turned, and walked out of the hall with her head high, though her heart was shattering with every step. She did not tell anyone that she was already carrying his children. She did not tell Damian either. He had made his choice clear, and she would not beg a man who saw her as a burden rather than a mate. That same night, Elena packed a single bag and left the territory of Crimson Moon Pack forever. She crossed into the human world, where wolves were rarely seen and rarely welcomed, and built a life from nothing. She found work in a small bakery in a quiet town, rented a tiny apartment above a laundromat, and 9 months later, she gave birth alone to twins. A boy and a girl, in a hospital, where no one knew her name meant anything at all. She named them Kai and Mira. From the moment they opened their eyes, she saw their father in them. Silver eyes, sharp and clear, the same shade as moonlight on water. She loved them fiercely, and she made a promise to herself that they would never feel unwanted the way she once had. 3 years passed. In Crimson Moon Pack, Damian Cross sat upon his throne, more powerful than ever. His territory expanded, his alliances secured. Serena Voss stood beside him as his mistress, beautiful and composed, always smiling for the pack, even when the whispers grew louder behind her back. 3 years of marriage-like partnership, and still no heir. Wolves valued strong bloodlines above almost everything else, and a king without an heir was a king with a target on his back. Rival packs had begun testing the borders of Crimson Moon, sensing weakness where there should have been strength. Damian told himself he did not regret his choice. He told himself every single day, but on full moon nights, when the pull of the mate bond should have been silent after a rejection, he still felt something tug deep in his chest, faint, but never quite gone. He never spoke of it to anyone. Kings were not supposed to feel weakness, and to him, missing a woman he had cast aside would have been the greatest weakness of all. Serena noticed the way his eyes sometimes grew distant during the full moon. She noticed, and it frightened her more than she ever let on. What Damian did not know, what no one in the pack knew, was that Serena had done something unforgivable 3 years ago. When she learned through her own network of spies that Elena might be carrying the Alpha's child, she panicked. An heir born to a rejected mate could still challenge her position, could still remind the pack of the woman Damian had discarded. So Serena had quietly ensured that any letters Elena might have sent were intercepted, and she made certain that anyone who might have told Damian the truth was silenced with threats or bribes. She buried the secret so deep that even she began to believe it no longer existed. But secrets do not disappear, they wait. In the human town where Elena raised her children, life had not been easy, but it had been hers. She worked hard, she loved her twins with everything she had, and slowly, she began to heal. Kai and Mira grew stronger and faster than any human child should, and by their 3rd year, small signs began to appear that could no longer be hidden. Mira's eyes sometimes flashed silver in anger. Kai once shifted a single clawed hand while reaching for a toy that had rolled beneath the couch. Elena knew what this meant. Her children were coming into their wolf, and untrained young wolves in the human world were a danger to themselves and to everyone around them. She had no choice. She would have to return to Crimson Moon territory, not for herself, and certainly not for Damian, but for her children's safety. Only pack elders could teach them control. Only pack land could hold their growing power without drawing dangerous attention. The day she chose to return happened to fall on the pack's founding ceremony, the most important gathering of the year, when every wolf in the territory came together to honor the pack's history. Elena had not planned it that way. She simply arrived when she arrived, her twins holding her hands on either side, unaware that she was about to walk into the middle of the largest crowd the pack ever gathered. The moment she stepped through the gates, wolves began to turn. It was not her scent they noticed first. It was the twins. Whispers spread like wildfire before she had even crossed halfway to the hall. By the time she reached the doors, the entire ceremony had gone silent. Hundreds of eyes locked onto the woman who had vanished 3 years ago, and the 2 small children beside her, whose silver eyes were unmistakable, whose scent carried the unmistakable mark of the cross bloodline. Damien rose from his throne so fast the chair nearly toppled behind him. "Elena," he said, and for the first time in 3 years, his voice was not calm at all. She did not bow. She did not run. She simply stood there, her chin lifted the same way it had been the night he rejected her, and let the pack see the truth for themselves. "These are my children," she said, her voice steady, though her heart pounded. "Kai and Mira. They are 3 years old. I did not come here for you, Alpha. I came here because they need to learn control before their power becomes something none of us can manage." The silence broke into chaos. Elders murmured amongst themselves, some already moving closer to examine the children's eyes and scent markers, confirming what the entire hall could already sense. Damien stepped down from the dais, his eyes never leaving the 2 small faces staring up at him with open curiosity, unaware of the storm they had just caused. It was Serena who broke first. "This is impossible," she said, too loudly, too quickly. "She left 3 years ago. There is no proof those children are." "Their scent does not lie," an elder interrupted, his voice sharp. "Nor do their eyes." Serena's composure cracked further with every word, and in her panic, she said something she should never have said. "I made sure she left. I made sure no letters reached you. I did what was necessary to protect this pack from a bloodline scandal." The hall went utterly still. Damien turned to her slowly, his expression darkening in a way the pack had rarely seen. "What did you do?" Serena realized her mistake too late. The words could not be taken back. Under pressure from the elders, and with her own guilt written plainly across her face, the truth spilled out in broken pieces. How she had intercepted communications, how she had spread false information to push Elena away, how she had buried the possibility of an heir out of fear for her own position. The pack's reaction was immediate and unforgiving. Manipulating a mate bond and hiding a true heir were considered among the gravest offenses a wolf could commit. Elders who had once respected Serena now looked at her with open disgust. Guards moved to her sides without needing to be told. Damien said nothing to her at all. He simply turned his back, which among wolves was one of the greatest insults a leader could give. He knelt instead, right there in front of the entire pack, lowering himself to the height of his children for the first time in his life. Kai and Mira looked at him with the innocent curiosity only small children possess, unaware that the man before them was their father, unaware of the years of pain that had led to this single moment. "I am sorry," Damien said, though the words felt too small for what he had done. He was not speaking only to Elena now, but to the children who had grown up without knowing him, and to the mate bond he had once so carelessly cast aside. Elena watched him kneel, and for a moment, the old ache in her chest rose to the surface, not the anger, but the grief of what could have been. She pushed it down. She had learned, over 3 long years, not to let old wounds decide her present choices. "I did not come back for forgiveness to be handed to you so easily," she told him quietly. "You had a choice 3 years ago, and you chose status over me. I built a life without you. I raised these children without you. Kneeling in front of the pack does not undo that." Damien nodded slowly, accepting the truth in her words rather than arguing against it. "Then let me earn it," he said, "not as a king, as their father, as the man who should have chosen you from the beginning." The pack, still reeling from Serena's exposed betrayal, watched this exchange with held breath. It was rare to see their alpha king humbled, Rarer still to see him choose humility over pride. In the days that followed, Serena was formally stripped of her title and exiled from Crimson Moon territory, her manipulations too severe to be forgiven by pack law. The elders declared Kai and Mira as recognized heirs of the cross bloodline, their status confirmed through both scent and blood testing according to pack tradition. Elena was given quarters within the territory, not as Damien's mate by obligation, but simply as the mother of the future heirs, free to make her own choices about her place within the pack. Damien did not push. He had learned, through losing 3 years he could never get back, that some things could not be commanded or claimed through title alone. Instead, he showed up. He learned Kai's favorite games and Mira's fear of loud thunder. He sat outside Elena's door some evenings, not asking to be let in, simply letting her know he was there if she ever wanted to talk. He attended pack council meetings with new focus, working to repair the damage Serena's schemes had caused to the territory's alliances, determined to prove that Crimson Moon Pack could still be strong under honest leadership. Slowly, cautiously, Elena allowed him back into small pieces of her life, not because the mate bond compelled her to, though it still pulled quietly between them on full moon nights, but because she began to see a difference in the man before her. He no longer spoke of alliances and status when he looked at her. He spoke of wanting to know his children, of wanting to understand the woman he had once been too blind to value. Months later, on another full moon, the pack gathered again, though this time for a far different reason. Damien stood before them, Elena beside him, Kai and Mira between them holding both their hands. He did not demand the pack accept her as Luna, he simply asked. "I chose wrongly once," he told them, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. "I let fear of weakness cost me the strongest bond I will ever have." Elena Hartley did not return to reclaim a throne. She returned to protect our children, and in doing so, she showed more strength and honesty than I managed in 3 years of ruling. If she chooses to stand beside me, it will not be because I command it. It will be because she decides I am finally worthy of it. Elena looked at him for a long moment, at the children who now called this land their home, at the pack that had once turned against her without a second thought, and now watched her with something closer to respect. She thought of the years of struggle, the nights she cried alone in a small apartment above a laundromat, the fierce love that had carried her and her children through it all. She did not answer with words. She simply laced her fingers through his, in front of the entire pack, and let the mate bond settle quietly into place between them, no longer forced, no longer denied, but finally, freely chosen. The pack erupted into howls beneath the full moon, a sound of celebration that echoed across the territory. Somewhere beneath that same moon, far beyond the borders, Serena walked alone into a life she had built through betrayal, carrying the weight of consequences she could never outrun. And within Crimson Moon Pack, a king who had once let pride cost him everything, finally understood what real strength meant, not power, not alliances, but the courage to kneel before the people who mattered most, and the humility to earn back what he had so carelessly thrown away.